Well, hello, everybody, and thanks for joining me on this second episode of Creative Conversations. I'm Tom Mattox. I'm an artist based in Portland, and I love talking to people from all over the world. You know, creativity is a big subject, and it's actually just an excuse to talk about anything, really. But today, my guest is from England. Her name is Clare Downham, aka the Queen of Calm. And as you listen, you'll find out why. And I love these conversations. They're very meandering. We never know where they're going to go. And she tells a little bit about her story, how she came to do the work she's doing today, along with a great story of how she accidentally created a podcast. And the podcast is known as the Calmcast. And I will include some information about Clare in the notes below. So I hope you enjoy this chat. And here is Clare. Hi, Clare.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah, so good to see you. And thanks for being my second guest on this experiment with YouTube. Yeah, it's been a full month plus since the first one. And I'm really delighted to chat with you. And you and I are in a group together. And we talk about a lot of fun stuff. Some of it's focused around business and being an entrepreneur and those sort of things. But I just really have enjoyed your, I don't know how I should say it, your, it's kind of a playful spirit, but there's also a lot of substance behind, I think, the things that we talk about. So that's a good combination. So for today, the subject's wide open, but I thought maybe if you just told people a little bit about where you're from and a few things about what you're up to in life.
Yeah. So I'm from and still live in Leeds in West Yorkshire, which is in the kind of slap bang east to west in the middle of the UK, and north to south, not far off either. So it's pretty much the centre of the UK. And I've lived here most of my life, actually, 51 years. I've been other places, but I've always come back to here. And what am I up to in the world is a really great question. So much more than I ever dreamed was possible is probably the answer. I'm helping people a lot and loving that, turning up with people to help them to feel better by helping them to see a bit more about their own kind of psychological functioning and how, and helping them to see that they're okay. Like, that's one of the main things I like to point people to just keep reminding them how amazingly they're actually doing, because a lot of the time they can't see that. And I love to help people to see that. And that's come from a place of my own huge transformation, just really in the last couple of years. Since January 2020, when I, a very frustrated, very tired business owner, went to have some coaching because I didn't think I was doing enough in life, or was enough, or, was productive enough, and procrastinated too much and wasn't motivated enough. And was helped to see, helped for all of that to fall away, really. And what that meant for me was a stepping into a place of things coming out of me now that I don't know where they come from a lot of the time, in terms of creativity, but feeling inspired, loving my business, which I definitely wouldn't have said was the case a few years ago. And just really enjoying the playfulness of it, the enjoyment of it, being amazed by the stuff I'm just putting into place and doing, so in the world of physically creating things, there's a lot coming out of me, despite the fact of me being a procrastinator, Tom. So it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shows that belief wasn't quite solid.
Well, I think you proved that one can be both creative and procrastinating.
Mm.
have all those qualities at the same time.
And maybe, like, as you're saying that, I think what I saw when I went for my first, I suppose, transformational coaching sessions was that I was calling something procrastination that was actually creativity.
Aha.
And as you just said that, I just thought, oh no, but that's because they're the same thing. And I'll explain that maybe, because what I used to do was I used to do that 12-week year planning thing where you block plan 12 weeks at a time. Oh, and I had a 3-year and a 5-year plan, and I did a lot of goal ahead thinking, planning. And so first of all, I used to procrastinate like mad to even write the plan in the first place.
Okay.
Take me weeks to write, be halfway through the period of time it was supposed to cover before I'd actually done the flipping thing. And then so it would have like 2 or 3 goals for each 12-week period. And there was a couple of tasks to do each week for each goal. So it was very, very overly planned, overly meticulous. And so that was what past me had put on the table. And present moment me went, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So that's what procrastination looks like, doesn't it? Is following this guided in the moment. This is ready to come out of me. And I was going, no, you're not supposed to let that out of you now. You're supposed to be doing this. And the friction that created was me actually squashing my creativity.
Oh, right.
Because that's what I thought. I called that procrastination.
Mm-hmm. But now you see it a little differently, apparently.
Oh, just a little bit, yeah. no, hugely differently.
Well, yeah, I mean that's an example of seeing something as being procrastination, actually being, wait a minute, that's not a bad thing. What actually is happening here is something very creative, and you recognize that.
Because it's ready to come out of us when it's ready to come out of us, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought I could write a 12-week plan that would then dictate when I was ready to bring forth a blog. Like, It's week 3 at 2:10 on a Tuesday. So now a blog must come forth from my body. And it's just like, really? That's like saying, right, it's 2:10 on a Friday and it's always going to sunshine in the UK. I mean, it's just as ridiculous as that, isn't it, really? Because it clearly doesn't do anything like that. On most Fridays at 2:00 in the UK, it doesn't sunshine. It usually rains. But it's like that. It's trying to dictate the weather.
Right.
It's as ridiculous as that. But I didn't see that for such a long time, because the world says, doesn't it? The world says you've got to plan and you've got to have goals. And if you're in business, it's almost like, kind of the unconscious learning that happens when you're a child. I feel when you enter the world of business, you go through another load of unconscious learning where you just like, you're in the thick of it. You don't realize it's all other people's thinking. And you think, oh, business has got to look like this. There's all these rules. And you almost take that on board without knowing that you're taking it on board. You just think it's right, because there's all these more experienced people telling you that it's right.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's just their made up stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, it's actually kind of cute the way you were describing the planner me, who says in 3 weeks I'm going to do this, and then there's like another person shows up in that moment and says, what did you give me to do? I'm not doing that.
It's hysterical, really, that we think we can control ourselves in the future.
Yeah.
To that level is just bonkers.
Yeah.
Really.
So it sounds like it's a little easier now to be your work and to.
And the irony of it is that I did flit all over the place before and never really got those things that were on the plan done. But now I don't plan really that much. I have a general direction of travel. I generally know vaguely where I want my business to go, but I'm really kind of, oh, there's something that might be interesting, and I'm kind of open. And so, but the quantity of stuff that I'm doing, that's coming out of me, that's coming from this present, the ideas, the things I could do next, the ways of tweaking bits in my business,
Mhm.
or like all of that is just literally, it's just spilling out of me all the time.
Yeah.
And it gets done because it's come from this. I'm stealing a Michael Neal phrase now, but it's coming from this real-time responsive intelligence.
Yeah.
It's this is ready to come out of me now in this moment. I mean, I created an accidental podcast, Tom,
Oh, you did?
having put off for ages. Like I had the idea to do a podcast ages ago,
Yeah.
and then I've faffed around it and not really done it. And then I had a client, and she was telling me that she was watching. I give my clients some videos to watch. And she said, I'm watching your videos while I'm driving. And I said, oh, are you? That's interesting. She said, it's fine because I'm not looking at the picture. I'm just listening to the words. And I said, I don't think the police would quite see it the way you're saying. And you'll be super calm as you're getting 3 points on your license and a massive fine.
Yeah.
So let's not do that. So out of that desire to help my client, I took the audios of the videos that I'd given her and made them into a podcast. Literally within 2 days, I'd uploaded hours of podcast content into a space and given it to her. And then I went, oh, so now I've created a podcast, haven't I? So now I just upload the tracks on a daily basis when I make them, and I've now got a podcast that's got new content every day.
Oh,
And that just came from, oh, here's a thing that's happened. I need to protect my client from getting arrested, or getting a massive fine. What can I do? And then there was a podcast.
yeah.
Because that real-time responsive intelligence responded to something that was happening in real time that needed addressing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just happened. And it was so easy to, I literally sat there like totally focused on it. You couldn't have distracted me with phones or emails, right? I just super focused and just banged all these tracks onto this podcast, like super quick. And yeah, and that's what inspiration does for us. I think it brings us this surge of energy, and that's coming through us, I think, not from us. It's this, it feels like it's coming from somewhere else, otherworldly kind of thing,
Yeah, Claire, as you say that, I can feel that too. Like I can feel that in this moment. And the way you talk about it, the thing that really strikes me is your trust in it. That's what it feels like to me. It's there. You can count on it. If life throws you a curveball, it's going to give you something. And that is, to me, that whether you call it trust or confidence, is so much easier to live that way, and it's so much easier to create things. I mean, a lot of what you're saying is very similar to painting. When I paint, I would never say I'm going to paint next Tuesday at 3:00, because who knows if it's something for me that it just kind of grabs me. But I always know in the moment something's going to come out, and it doesn't need to be planned. And in fact, many times when I have anything more than just like a color or a shape or emotion come to me, if there's any more than that, it never goes in that direction ultimately. Like even like more than one step ahead of what I'm thinking about, a painting will never go there, because once you take a step, then all of a sudden everything gets wiped away. And there's what you were talking about, that inspiration, that intelligence that comes through us in a moment. That's exactly what happens when I paint. And it's a total joy to be that way. And so the fact that you can, I've sort of reflected on this to see that kind of thing happening more and more in life, not just when I'm painting, because it's like a universal, to me, it's a universal thing, principle, whatever, that we have access to this amazing, unlimited potential, whatever you want to call it. But you can feel it. I can feel it as you speak. Like it's coming out as you speak. So,
yeah. And maybe I didn't know it was there for a long time.
Yeah.
I think I got a glimmer of it when I burnt out. So I was a primary school head teacher, which in the UK,
really?
Yeah, 3 to 11 age range, of a big school. It was, well, in the UK at 400 little children, so that's quite, well, nearly 500 actually, in the school I was in. And I went to school one day, just over 7 years ago, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't switch on my computer. I couldn't carry on.
Wow.
And I was really sick. I had adrenal burnout, and I was absolutely, there was nothing left of me, really. I was just exhausted physically and emotionally. Physically as much as anything. I hadn't slept for months. Excuse me. That's the mention of sleep, you see. The yawn went, is it my turn now to join the party? I'll just turn up. But what I think that was when I started to get a glimpse of this. I think I read Gabby Bernstein's The Universe Has Got Your Back, and other books like that, kind of Course in Miracle type stuff at that time. And I think when two things happened when I was sick that year. The first thing that one of the things that happened was on almost exactly a year from when I walked out of work, I resigned. And 10 days after that, I got an email inviting me to train to be a hypnotherapist, which ended up being my first business.
I see.
But also in that year, I bought a domain name randomly while I was sick with feeling terrible. I bought this domain name, uniquejourney.co.uk, and then did nothing with it, because I'd had this idea for something I could do with a website, but then I was, absolutely flat, no motivation, not feeling very well. So I didn't do anything with it. So when I did the hypnotherapy training, bearing in mind I bought the domain name before, I knew I was going to do the hypnotherapy training. When I did the hypnotherapy training, I was like, oh, that's my business name, because hypnotherapy does provide this kind of unique journey for people to get better. And I think that really I got a lot of trust from that, a lot of belief that there's something around me, in me, coming through me, that is loving and caring. And even in our darkest times, it's still there. It's, and it's still, I like sometimes people describe resilience. It's like this rope. There's something pulling us through life around our middle, and it never stops doing that, keeps pulling us forward. And the way that all worked out was just super, reassuring, I think, that life's going to turn out. It's going to be fine. And not, not even now it's more, not that it's going to turn out, but it's okay now.
Yeah. I love your description of being pulled back, and something that has sort of come online for me in the past couple of years. And like you, I hadn't realized that it was there all along. In fact, it had always been doing that all my life. But when you see it in real time happening, and then you see it over and over again, then you can count on it. And I'm kind of curious, since to me, like, I've heard before, the word resilience especially has been kind of like almost like a buzzword in psychology and education for definitely the past 5-10 years. I've heard it a lot. And I might have thought, if I'd bothered to think about it, what resilience was, that I understood it and I knew what it was. But but to actually wake up to this really amazing power has totally flipped the way I see life. Like in the past, I would say, most of my life, definitely most of my adult life, I've gone through periods of like feeling really inspired, really hopeful, and then periods of not knowing what to do, and then going down into to depression and to worry. And then something would happen, and then all of a sudden I'd be flying high again. I'd be going to a new part of the world. I'd be meeting new people, getting new jobs, feeling high and inspired. And it seemed like it was, a cycle going on and on. But what I didn't realize that through all those times, whether I would have said I was in a down period or an up period, the same thing was happening on a daily basis. I was having both happy thoughts and unhappy thoughts. But just that there's something about that to realize that all through life I've been going up and down. Every time I go down, something pulls me up. Every time I go down, it's almost like a reverse gravity. Where everything that goes up must come down, but everything that goes down must come up. And I love the way you described it. And I'm curious, when you talk to people, do you find them? Do you see the moment where they catch on to that?
Yeah, and I don't know if it always comes in one moment. I feel like it is like a drip.
Yeah.
That there's a seeing of it in perhaps one area of life. And then it's almost like they've got that area of life, it's all wrapped in gold paper now and it's all shiny that bit. But then there'll be some of that. And that's the same for me too. And I'm sure it's the same for you, Tom, that, there's still some parts of life where it doesn't seem to be there, or it's not as accessible maybe. But it is always there. And I think just even when you like, is it, I'm not feeling it at the moment, or I'm feeling a bit like, I think there's something now in me that there's almost still there's just this reassuring kind of little voice going, no, it's okay, you're okay, okay. And I think like my little thing is being the queen of calm.
Yes.
And that is like, people misunderstand that because they think that means that I'm calm all the time. And trust me, Tom, don't tell anybody, but it isn't true.
Okay.
I have my moments. You ask my other half.
Yes.
But it's not being calm, like Zen like all the time, but it's having this sense that sits underneath everything all the time. So I can be a crying menopausal mess, which I do tend to be sometimes. And I know that's okay. I know I'm okay being like that, because I know that doesn't fundamentally mean that I've broken myself or I've broken my resilience or the calm's gone. I know it just means that in that moment, I'm a little bit caught up in something and I'm feeling that. But that's okay, because underneath that are those innate qualities, the calm, the resilience, the confidence, the peace, love, wisdom, innate well-being. All those things are like in me all the time. And so I like Michael Neal called it an upside down duck once, but I like an upside down swan better. I think it's got more class to it.
Okay.
But it is, how people say lots of people are like super calm on the top, and they're, but actually underneath they're literally falling apart at the seams because they're literally panic paddling underneath.
Right.
Well, I feel like I'm calm underneath, despite the fact that sometimes I can, and certainly the world can look like it's lost the plot. and I feel like I'm like the swan, the calm, serene thing is underneath all that, and it's always there. And that's super reassuring.
Yeah. But one of the things that I really appreciate about what you just said was, and this is true of many of the people we're in some groups together and in a larger community, that without fail, everybody who talks about something, whether it be, they have something that's working in their lives, that they accomplished, or, I'm painting and I'm creative and I feel good about that. At the same time, everybody talks about the moments when they fall apart, when whatever they're doing, or maybe their entire life feels like a big mess. And I just love that authenticity to like almost every person to a person will talk about that, but that you can have all those experiences but still feel like you're generally in a good place, or you still know that you have something you can count on. And to me, that's like the best feeling, um, to have that. Do you relate to that at all?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what I'm seeing more and more is this guidance system that we've got, that we misunderstand often, and that's, the feeling that we have
Yeah.
is always guiding us. And unfortunately, in the world right now, we've been made to, well, not us anymore, I guess, but a lot of it seems that society is saying some feelings are bad, some are good. But when you realize they're all information,
Mm-hmm.
that is, there doesn't need to be any bad feelings or good feelings anymore. None of them need to be labeled. They're all information. Now, I'll be honest, I don't always see it in the moment because I definitely sometimes, lose my what and get caught up in something. But when you do more and more start to see that you're being guided by this, the whole system is just perfect. All our feelings, and the guidance we get, and how that tells us about our state of mind, and helps us to see that maybe we need to settle down a little bit before we do the next thing, or speak to somebody, or make a decision, or whatever. I think it's so clever, and for me that's so transformational, because I spent years trying to fix that system when it's not broken. Trying to control my feelings, control my thoughts, make them be different, all that stuff around, well, I've got to force myself to do these things, I've got to be different, I've got to think different. It was exhausting, and I was stuck in that for such a long time. And to now have a feeling and go and see, oh yeah, that's information. That's part of the reason why the calm sits under everything. Is just,
Yeah.
well, the feeling's nothing to be afraid of now. It's just letting me know. It's just like a warning light on your car dashboard, isn't it? Just saying, hey, your thinking's a bit interesting right now, Claire. Take note.
or stop watching the video and listen to the podcast. Sort of my own journey and my own story, how I began to see what we call this innate resilience, being brought back to a nice feeling, a calm state, or just a happy place, happened about 3 years ago, when I was going through a period in my life where I was feeling very depressed. And I've had periods in my adult life where I've felt that way, in the midst of this amazing life that I've had. And it got so bad for me that for the first time I went in and I saw a doctor, and I said, like this has happened before, but this is the worst. And it doesn't feel like it's going to end. So we agreed to try some medication, which I had never tried before. And I've always been kind of neutral toward medication, like whatever helps people, I'm in favor of. But if you can do it without, great. Well, the medication didn't really seem to do much after a couple of weeks, and we agreed to stop. And I'm glad we stopped, because what happened after that was a miracle, because I began to see myself, just as you were saying, somehow in real time. I would notice myself, like my mood or my psyche going down, and I would notice it happening, and then I would notice it would like bob back up, like that analogy of having a beach ball that you try to press down, you let go, it bobs up. And the place where I first saw it was really, I love this example because it's so mundane, it's so ordinary. And I was just going for the bus, And, I missed the bus by like 10 seconds. And I would always say to myself, I hate missing the bus. Now I have to wait for the next one. So I was feeling that, and I got to the little terminal, and I sat down, and I thought, well, there's nothing else I can do but wait for the next bus. So I sat down, but I noticed in real time, going from being upset about missing the bus and having to wait to like within 20, 30 seconds of being like, oh, I'm fine. I don't mind sitting here. It's a nice day. But there was something in that because I noticed it happen. I noticed that little phenomenon. And then later, a lot of these things happen while I'm on the bus or trying to take bus. Another time, I was at a bus station and I was waiting, and I noticed myself worrying about finances and the future and money, which is something I've worried about a lot in my life. And just going down, and then after about 20 seconds, I came right back up. Wow, that's interesting. There it is again. And then I started noticing it everywhere, like all the time. I'd be and these are such small, kind of silly, even unimportant things. I'd be at the checkout line at the grocery store. I'm always going for like the shortest line. I'm maneuvering and trying to judge. And then I'd be in a line, and then all of a sudden something got very slowed down in front of me. Oh, man. And then I said to myself, I wonder how long this is going to last, because I was catching on, and it lasted like 10 seconds, and then I was happy again. So it's really, to me, it's that simple, that you can see that it's happening all the time. And as I caught on to this, my view of myself at some point, I don't even know when it happened, the view of myself as being a diagnosed depressed person just wasn't even there anymore. Like, I don't even know when it went away. And so flash forward to about 6 months later, I go in to see my doctor for some routine, yearly things like some blood work. And she comes into the room, and the first thing she says is, "How's your mood?" Because she doesn't know any of this. She saw me 6 months earlier when the medication failed. She said, "How's your mood?" I said, "My mood's great." And I was kind of taken aback by how strongly it came out, but in the moment it was true. And she stopped and she said, "Really? What's going on?" And I just said, "I just realized my mood regulates itself."
Wow.
And that was it. And she was like, "Oh, good. And we went on with the whatever else we needed to talk about. It was a very short visit. And part of me, after we had that little exchange, I thought, oh, wow, I don't know if I really communicated the depth of how different I am than I was before. So as she was leaving, she just said, "Tom, I'm really glad you're feeling better." And I said, "Yeah, thank you. I thank you." And, I always believed that in order for me to not be a depressed person, I had to this is what I was saying to her, I had to stop having depressing and worrying thoughts. But what I realized was that each of those thoughts take care of themselves. It's kind of like, if you're hungry, which is not a pleasant feeling, right? But if you're hungry and there's food available that you like, you don't freak out about being hungry. And it was the same thing with my thoughts. And it was so interesting because as I said that to her, it's almost like I could feel this light going off in the room. Like it was impacting her. And she stopped and she said, "Wow, what a great way to start my day." And then when I went to get some blood tests done, I looked at the printout of my visit and things we talked about. And then at the very bottom it said, because this was my diagnosis, major recurrent depression. She had that listed, and then underneath she wrote, "In full remission."
Oh, wow. That is so cool.
Isn't that great? And
Yeah.
it's not like, I'm saying to people necessarily who are watching this, who are going through depression or even have gone through major depression, that what I'm describing is a cure. But it's just my experience of exactly what you were talking about, that things don't have to change that much. like to this day, I'm sure I have thousands of negative worrying thoughts every day. It's just human, it's just natural. But the fact that they kind of hit me, or hard or gently, they kind of just have their little 20-30 second dance or life, and then they move on.
Mm.
And I'm like, I don't know what that just was, but I'm fine now. And so that's exactly what it sounds like you're describing. And it's such a gift that if you can, I'm hoping it's a gift of this podcast, and whatever, work we both do in the future. But it's such a gift, I hope, to people to know that it doesn't really take a lot for life to look very different.
Mm.
So
Yeah, I love that. Mine tends to be a kind of wry smile and a
okay.
kind of, oh, there you go again. Never mind, it's just like, yeah, whatever. Like a teenager, like my teenagers used to say to me,
Yeah,
whatever. That if the negative thought turns up, or the, you know, the ones that aren't very nice, or they are just like very much, oh, okay then, whatever. and then like you say, they just don't seem so, I think they just don't seem so serious,
right, right,
and therefore they don't seem true anymore.
right. Yeah,
And they really did used to feel true,
yeah,
the doom and gloomy ones.
yeah. So I'm curious with all that, and as you look, we can bring the future manager back in for a few seconds. When you look at your future, what are some things that you're interested in creating? I mean, I happen to know that you have is it like a camper van of some sorts that you have some hopes for? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we have a motorhome called Trevor.
Trevor.
My daughter thinks she's funny, so my motorhome's called Trevor. Um, it's not even alliterated, is it? That could have been
No.
like maybe it's the motorhome or something. No, it's Trevor the motorhome. Anyway, so yeah, that's just a place where myself and my fiance are playing at the moment. So it's on the drive. We'll be away in it this weekend. We travel for his work a little bit, and I work from the van. So we're starting to kind of play in that space of living in it for periods of time. Yeah, and I mean the adventure we kind of have in mind is to travel for a few months at a time, although that's now limited to 3 months for us in the UK. We can only
Oh,
be in
that's right.
Europe for 3 months at a time now.
Mhm.
Yeah, thanks Brexit.
Right.
So we'll do patches hopefully abroad, come home for a bit. I mean, we've got 4 kids between us. Eventually, I'm guessing we'll be grandchildren, so we will want to be back here some of the time. So yeah, so we're just playing in the UK at the moment because travel's too much faff, quite frankly, for us. So we're, in terms of traveling abroad. So for now, we're just playing here. We're seeing places in the UK. I mean, I've been here 51 years, as I said, and there's places I've not seen. And he's only been here 18 years. So there's big chunks of the UK that he's not seen. So yeah, the aim being long term to live and work in the motorhome
Nice.
and coach from there, from
Nice.
wherever we happen to be.
Nice. That's awesome. And I
Mm.
guess, the UK, at least compared to the United States, not so quite big geographically. So it seems like you can pretty easily can you get pretty much anywhere in a day?
Um,
Yes.
that would be a serious trek, I guess, in a day. Yeah, we can get like from where we are, because we're in the
In
middle.
the middle too. Yeah.
We're in the middle. So yeah, we could get to the top of Scotland in a day. That'd be quite a drive. Or we can get down to the bottom of like Cornwall, which is the southwest kind of, the bit that looks like the foot. That's Cornwall. We can get down to there definitely in sort of 6 hours ish. So yeah, we can get places pretty easily.
Yeah.
And there's just chunks of it that even I've not seen. So we're always looking for new walks to go on and new adventures to
Yeah.
do in this country. So
Do you
Yeah.
think that will be part of your podcast or your blog, or do you have any inclinations towards like sharing?
Yeah, maybe. I follow a few accounts on Instagram where they, they're tracking their travels. It's not emerged yet as a thing, but
Yeah,
it's
that's
kind
fine.
of there in the background that there might be space for that to
Yeah,
be part of what I share out there in the
yeah,
world.
yeah.
So
And
we
who
shall
knows?
see.
You'll make it up in the moment. Something unexpected will come to you.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, well, this has been a lovely conversation, Claire. It's so
Mm.
good. And your Queen of Calm title, you wear it very well.
Thank you.
I do feel it. I definitely feel it all the time, and I felt it in the groups and the previous conversations we've had. And there's more to come, right? There's always more to come.
Absolutely. It's been an absolute pleasure, Tom. I've really
Oh,
enjoyed it.
me too.
Yeah, it's been lovely.
Okay.